Baby, they were doing the absolute most in this first episode of Welcome to Derry. For starters, y'all had my man Matty out here super stressed. So stressed that he had to, run away. And he was like, well, shoot, while I'm running away, let me go ahead and enjoy this little double feature for free 99. I got my Cracker Jacks, got my Peaceful Pacifier to chill out a little bit. He probably should have put a silence on it because it was giving a little Maggie from The Simpsons a little too noisy. And noise or no noise, it didn't even matter because the movie attendant was trying to get him up out of there anyway because they weren't in the freebie business. And it seemed like nobody was looking out for Maddie except for Veronica and her pops, because he was like, man, have you seen his family? Let that boy just watch some movies. Movie attendant guy didn't care, so he chased Maddie out the building. And you gotta feel for Maddie because the brother's just out here by himself in the cold. He is so desperate to get out of Derry that he's willing to hitchhike with some strangers. So this family in a station wagon pull up. And, they look like a quote-unquote normal family. Look like they're going to be pretty chill. And the woman was like, oh my gosh, you poor baby. Get in the car before you catch a cold. And she's saying all the nice motherly things that you're supposed to say to a kid. But as soon as he got in the car, it got weird fast. For starters, the sister in the back seat pulled some liver out in a little container and dipped her finger in the juices and sniffed it. And I was like, gross already. Then she tried to put her fingers all in Maddie's face like he needed to get a whiff. And I'm glad that he moved away from her, but he was looking at her like, girl, mind you, this is the first time I'm meeting you. Good thing for Maddie, the little brother was trying to spell trouble and he was having trouble spelling trouble. So the sister yelled at him and spelled it out for him, calling him an idiot. And then the mom nonchalantly said, that's our little harlot. And I clutched every non-existent pearl I had. I was like, I know you didn't just call your daughter a hoe. Mama said we couldn't keep her legs closed if we tried. And that's when I was like, ooh, Maddie, we got to get you up out this car, baby. Hit eject. And Maddie absolutely was getting weirded out by that situation because he told them anywhere but Derry. And it seemed like they were leaving, but somehow it seemed like they were also returning. And that's when Maddie got the cue to leave the car. But they didn't want to let him out. He wasn't without fight, though. He tried to grab that wheel. He started shaking up the car, but he accidentally hit the mom in the stomach. And she went into labor. So she started having this baby and she unsnapped them drawers and let that baby just shoot out. And I was like, this is disgusting. Now, I was trying to figure out what the baby was going to look like. Maybe it'll be Pennywise in a normal form. But I think this is actually Pennywise's normal form. So, yeah, he came out looking hideous. Honestly, I can't even say it was a he. I say it was an it. That was a damn mutant baby. And that thing was just active, jumping around that car, flying around, in fact. And just getting bodily fluids everywhere. The mom was having fun with the umbilical cord. She was acting like it was a leash, trying to pull the baby down and stuff. It was kind of crazy. Now, my question is, whose bloodline is responsible for this ugly ass baby? Like, did the husband need to get a vasectomy before this situation? Because that baby was not it. I mean, it is it, but it wasn't it. So at this point, Maddie is freaking out because he can't get out the car and that baby is just flying rampant around the car. And it gets in the backseat and it's staring him down. The kids are staring him down. And then all of a sudden, it just jumps Maddie and knocks his whole pacifier out the window. And I'm thinking to myself, poor little Maddie, he's just trying to get away from danger and ran right into it. So I'm going to keep an eye on these two because I'm not sure what role they're about to play. But I feel like the major son is going to have something to do with like the missing children, or he might join the clique. I also want to know what this brother's deal is because he's been staring him down since he got here. And I hope he's not like Steven from Django. Please, the first time this brother speaks, I hope he doesn't utter something crazy like, I'll snatch your black ass up off that horse. I beg of you, please let this man say something substantial. Now, when we get over here to Derry High, first of all, I gotta say, these kids bad as hell. They keep disrespecting my girl Lily because she ain't do nothing to nobody. She just walking down the hall, looking a little scary, but they put pickles all up in her locker. So when she opened it, they kind of had it booby trapped where it would fall and almost hit her. And I'm like, why would y'all even do that? Then I find out why they did it. Turns out her daddy done died at the pickle factory or whatever. And they saying his body parts are in the jars. Now I want to know whose idea this was, because who raised y'all? See, this is why people say F them kids. So y'all thought this was cute. Y'all over here laughing and pointing at her and stuff like that. But I wish she had those carry powers so bad. Because all I'm hearing is, they're all going to laugh at you. Man, I would have telekinesed the whole damn block. Not only did y'all waste good pickles, but then y'all got the girl feet smelling like pickles all day. And her friend, who may not be her friend, she was like, girl, you smell delicious. And another thing, why y'all mess with Brother Turtle like this? All he's trying to do is tell y'all to duck and cover for nuclear safety. And y'all knocking flies out his hand. You just yanked his Coke out his hand like he wasn't about to drink it. See, this why the demons over there in Derry right now, because y'all evil as hell. The creatures fit right in with y'all. This dynamic between Teddy and Phil is hilarious to me. Phil is always talking about this alien infestation that's coming or whatever, and Teddy was like, okay, bro, like just chill out. I don't want to hear all that. You've been sitting too close to the TV again. But Phil never backs down. He's still trying to prove his point. Now back over at Phil's house later that night, they got into an argument because Teddy, he's a little sensitive guy. He was just thinking about what happened to Maddie. He was like, it's been 4 months to the date since like Maddie came up missing. We don't know what happened to him. And Phil was like, right. But anyway, and he started talking about something else. And Teddy was like, don't you hear that I'm trying to talk to you about Maddie and you're just like ignoring me? And Phil was like, so bruh, like talking about him ain't gonna really bring him back. And their minds were on two different things at that moment because Maddie was on Teddy's mind. Meanwhile, Titties was on Phil's mind because he was trying to watch the neighbor from across the way undress. But the cat blocked that situation for him. The pets be knowing. The cat was like, stop looking at my human, you perv. Now pick me up and take me in here and get some food, girl. And Teddy was like, well, maybe he's still alive because he seems like he's missing. He might not be dead. But Phil didn't want to hear all that, so Teddy stormed out and slammed the door. So it's bath time over at Lily's place, and she turns on the water and she's letting it fill up the tub. So while she's waiting, she looks at her charm bracelet. So it takes her down memory lane. So she reminisces about a time when Maddie took her up to the secret hiding place where the boys get to see the best view in town. It's a whole shutdown spot up there. And they got Cracker Jacks. They chilling. He gives her his little turtle. It was cute or whatever because she was like, dog, I always get rocket ship in the box. It was a nice little moment for them because both of them had been through some things. And to be honest, Maddie had some game. Brody knew what he wanted. They sitting over there talking. He's like, hey, you ain't crazy to me, but I'm crazy about you, girl. He didn't say the whole thing, but he did pretty much say, you're not loony to me, even though that's what everybody called her. He gave her time to talk about what actually happened with her dad when he passed, and she was blaming herself, and he was like, that was not you. He's trying to build sis up. It was really nice. So then they get up and they start enjoying the fireworks, and she thanks him for letting her talk about her situation with her dad. She said, nobody lets me tell my side of the story. She said, pretty much, I can't even talk about this with my friends. And that's when Maddie told her, you're not like those other girls. And Lily said, I'm starting to see that. And she said, whether it's for the better or worse. And he was like, it's definitely for the better. And I was like, ooh, ease up on her, killer. The words were just flowing up out of Maddie. And for a second, you could tell that she was picking up what he was putting down. But then he went in for the kiss and she was like, oh. And he was like, oh, I misread this situation. That was my bad. And then he was starting to leave. He was like, oh, I got to get back to the house. And she was like, no, I didn't mean it like that. It's just that we're friends. And I said, so it does sound like you meant it like that because you don't want to make out with your friend like that. That's okay to say. What's so funny about this scene is that it was the slowest exit I'd seen in a long time. Maddie was like, that was my mistake. I misread it and I need to get home anyway because, it's late. If my dad finds out I'm out this late, he going to tear me up. And that's when Lily said, I didn't mean it like that. And he stopped again and was like, oh, this was a bad idea. I'll see you later. And she was like, Maddie, wait. And this is why I said you told him exactly what you were thinking the first time because you had ample time to tell him exactly what you felt. So when she snaps back to reality, she hears something in the pipes of the tub. She hears a voice. She hears some singing of a specific song and she thinks it's Maddie. And she's like, Maddie, if that's you, just come out. And that's when he shouted back, they won't let me. And then his dirty ass fingers came up through the hole of the tub and she was terrified. And when she got to school the next day, she tried to tell her so-called friend Margie or Maggie, whatever her name is. I don't really care about it at the moment because she get on my nerves. She's supposed to be your real friend, but instead she tried to impress these other girls. So she took her in the bathroom and was like, now listen, don't mess this up for me. Don't be over here talking about no crazy stuff. They already think you crazy, girl. So Lily took it upon herself to go meet with Teddy and Phil to let them know what she had seen. And they're like, first of all, why did Maddie bring you up here? Because we only brought him up here like one time. And Lily was like, I thought y'all was like best buds or whatever. And to be honest, I think a lot of people lied about their relationship with Maddie because homegirl's friend didn't even know that she was kicking it with Maddie too. She was like, you ain't even really talked to that man before. Meanwhile, Teddy and Phil are trying to say that their relationship with Maddie was complicated. But I'm trying to figure out why would you bring a complicated relationship to your secret hideout? By the way, check out this stance on Teddy right here. Like what 63-year-old man done inhabited his body? He's standing there like he about to ask this man about his retirement fund or something. And he was trying to actually wrap his mind around what Lily had told them. He was like, it sounds impossible, but he wants to believe her. And later that night at dinner, he asked his dad, do you think somebody could be kept in the sewer for such a long time? And his dad told him stories about Jewish people going through the camps and whatnot. And he was like, listen, we know a lot about struggle and pain and suffering and all this kind of stuff. And they used to use Jewish people's skin as lampshades. And I was like, now, why did you tell this boy that story? You could already tell he was struggling. And on top of that, you done threw that man's comic book talking about get rid of the fantasy. Now, of course, he was going to be reading that comic book after that. And then his light started flickering. And all of a sudden, that Jewish skin that he was thinking about earlier done showed up on the lamp. Scared that man about halfway to death. So, of course, he went back to tell Lily and Phil what happened. And that man was throwing up everything. He was throwing up gang signs. He was throwing up every meal he could have, next week's meals, like everything. So they ended up going to do research at the library. And Phil brought a +1, his little sister Susie, and she was hilarious. He sent her on a little scavenger hunt for a book she would never find. Then they read this article talking about how Maddie came up missing. And then they said they had questions for this 12-year-old girl at the movie theater. So they knew exactly who to go to. So then they get over to Veronica's house, and Veronica's like, who you asking questions about? Maddie. If you don't get your ass off away from my porch, after all the times they tried to frame my dad for this. Now that is messed up though, because I'm imagining the police are like, now where was the colored when all of this went down? So they turned around and got ready to leave, and Phil was like, man, I told y'all it was a waste of time trying to chase a song down a drain or whatever, and it stopped her. She was like, what did you just say? And Lily was like, I heard this song. It was in the drain pipes. And she said, you heard it too, didn't you? And Veronica said, I didn't hear the song, but I did hear some sounds in the pipes down in the basement of the movie theater. And then she was part of the crew. Now, over at the dormitory for the Air Force people, Brother Major was trying to go to sleep. And just as he was getting ready to close his eyes, you had these 3 guys show up in ridiculous outfits. And I'm thinking, no ski masks were available back in the day? They were trying to get the specs for that B-52 that he was learning how to fly. And I'm thinking, one of these guys has to be the dude that didn't want to salute him. And I feel like it was the person who didn't speak and didn't really get involved in the action for real. And they were pretty terrible at trying to get information out of him because he wasn't going to give it to him. And then they got jumped by the little man that came in the room. And I'm thinking, so you really weren't going to use that blicky. Sounds like you just all talk. So the kids get over to the theater and Veronica's preparing to turn on the film. And what was so funny is they were kind of hearing some sniffling over there on Teddy's end. And Phil was like, Teddy, are you crying? He was like, nah, I'm not crying. But then Lily was crying, and she did not have a problem saying that she was, but she was just emotional. And then Phil was like, it's none of our fault that he's dead, And you can hear his voice crack a little bit while he's talking. And Susie was like, are you crying? And Phil was like, no, I'm not crying. Nobody's crying. And as soon as the lights came on for the film, you saw that everybody except for Susie was crying. It was hilarious. And while they were watching the film, all of a sudden you see Maddie pop up. And they're like, wait, what is Maddie doing in here? And they start calling his name and he looks at them. And then they're like calling him, telling him to come to their voice or whatever. And they're like, we're going to get you out. And he was like, no, you're not. Y'all are the reason I'm up in here. He's like, y'all all lied. Y'all weren't around. Y'all weren't there. And if you look behind him on that screen, you see that family that took him for that ride earlier. And in that scene, his demeanor started changing. And then his face even changed, sort of like the little boy when he was in the car at the beginning. And then he unleashed that mutant baby. But this one was much bigger. And Phil was like, I told you some stuff was going on over there at the base. They got a mutant baby. The baby must have been eating out here because that baby looked like it's been eating good. It was much bigger. It was almost like a teenager. And it was ready to feast again because it went after everybody. I'm talking about the way it jerked little Teddy up, turned that man every which way but loose. Then it went ahead and got Phil up out of here. Meanwhile, Lily did what she was supposed to do. She hit the deck and she saw Susie down there too. She was like, Susie, give me your hand. And I was like, girl, no, shut up. Neither she nor Susie knew what to do. So they locked hands, only for enough time for that creature to get down there and looking like, oh, I love female bonding. This is so sweet. But I'm about to disconnect y'all. That little mutant baby ripped that room up, torn from limb to limb. Literally. It was just shredding folks, bruh.
You more shredded than a Julian salad, man.
And I was like, oh, so y'all don't want to spare anybody on episode 1, do you? Had me jumping and dodging in my bed, talking about,
Lord, I'm having a heart attack. Damn, this is some scary shit.
And while all that was going on, the doors and the windows started trying to close on Veronica up in the movie room. Sis had to hammer her way up out of there. And then she eventually made it down to the theater where she didn't see anybody for a second, but then she saw Lily's hand kind of pop out from one of the seats and she came and helped her up. And she's like, what happened, Lily? And Lily was like, they all gone, bruh. And then they saw the hand of that creature pop up and they ran so they could close the door and just lock it with the hammer. And Veronica said, what do you mean they're all gone? And that is when Lily looked down to see that she was still holding on to Susie's hand. Well, I'm trying to figure out what kind of grip she had going on because that creature must have just ripped Susie up off the floor. Because all was left was like a wrist and a little bit of forearm. And once she realized that she was still holding on to Susie's hand, she let out the biggest scream ever. And that's where the episode ended. I had to go back and watch it again because it was too much happening at once. I was like, ooh, this is crazy. Like, they were just killing people left and right. It was a really good start to the season, so I can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes. What did y'all think of the episode? Did you notice anything interesting? Let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so you know when I drop new content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.